Welcome to the virtual college exploration for Indiana students, sponsored by the Indiana Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the full schedule at InACAC.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website. I'd like to now turn it over to my friends and presenters at Wabash.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you for joining our session today. We appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to listen to us talk about the college. My name is Matt Bowers. I'm Associate Director of Admissions at Wabash College. I work with all the students from Marion County and Indiana, as well as students from the Southeast in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. I'll turn it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves before we get started.
Great, thanks, Matt. I'm Caitlin Ebbinghaus. I'm one of our Senior Assistant Directors of Admission at Wabash College. I primarily work with students in the northern, eastern, western donut counties around Marion County, and then some New England states. So thanks for coming tonight. Nico?
I'm Nico Morris. I'm a senior here at Wabash College. I'm a classics major in history and education, double minor from Muncie, Indiana.
So for those of you that don't know anything about Wabash, Wabash is a small liberal arts college in Crawfordsville, Indiana. We sit on about 66 acres and have around 950 student enrollment right now. A few things that are great about Wabash: it's about 45 minutes west of Indianapolis. We have a really tight-knit student body representing 26 different states and 19 different countries. But I think the essence of Wabash is really summed up in the fact that we only have one rule on campus. Wabash utilizes the gentleman's rule to conduct all of our behavior. And the gentleman's rule states that a Wabash man will conduct himself at all times, both on and off campus, as a gentleman and a responsible citizen. So one of the things that's great about Wabash is you're going to get the opportunity to really live out our mission statement. And the mission statement at Wabash really is broken down into four critical pieces: learn more, earn more, play more, and lead more. And as we go through the presentation, we'll elaborate on those a little bit as we continue. So many of you may be thinking, why the liberal arts, or what the liberal arts looks like. Wabash College is based on small classroom sizes that are engaging. I think the reality is you're going to get a lot of face time with professors that are full PhDs in their fields. We don't use any TAs or graduate assistants for any of our courses. So you're really going to get to know that professor really well as the 13 guys that are in your class. One of the things, and who better than to have Nico help us out in talking about kind of what the classroom experience at Wabash looks like. Nico, I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes.
One thing that's really nice with our classroom experience is because of how small our classrooms are, you're going to develop a lot of relationships with professors and students, whether it be in that classroom setting or outside of it. But a really big benefit of having those small classrooms is a lot of the work that we do is in small discussions, which then comes back to a class as a whole. So it's a lot of more detail oriented and it's just more focused work. And with a lot of it being discussion based, there's a lot more room for growth and opportunity to kind of.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of that relationship, I think, comes into play, when you get ready to have those recommendation letters written for professional school or for graduate school or places that you may be going, job interviews and things like that. Those relationships really come into play. Wabash has two really unique programs. So the first is kind of our whole Wabash X set of programs. So our Center for Innovation, Business, and Entrepreneurship, we call it CIBE, the Wabash Democracy and Public Discourse, WDPD, our Global Health Initiative, and our Digital Arts and Human Values programs. These are high impact co-curricular programs that are going to take what you're learning in the classroom and apply it to real world situations, group work, and getting the opportunity to really gain real world experience. The first two programs I mentioned, CIBE and WDPD, do both require a separate short application for direct admission into those programs, and they are limited each year, so they are competitive. I think one of the things I'm most proud about Wabash for doing is actually our immersion learning programs. So as you go through your college search, you're probably going to hear from a number of small liberal arts colleges or colleges in general that will talk about the ability to travel. Wabash certainly is going to be a school that's going to push you to travel, and it's going to encourage you to do that the whole time that you're at Wabash. The difference for us is that we're going to pay for it. So our immersion learning programs are classes taught on campus with a 7 to 10 day travel component built in. And you can see from the list on your screen, some of the places these guys have gone are not just down the road. The United Kingdom, Florida, China, Italy, and the list continues on and on. Typically, we have 8 to 10 of these each year. The classes are limited to 15 students. And again, like I said, you're going to pay roughly a $200 deposit that is then given back to you as you get on the plane to depart for that trip. We have students that are doing multiple of these, but through an endowed gift from our generous alumni, we actually have the opportunity to offer this to every single student on campus at least once, completely cost-free. So if anybody asks you when you're coming to Wabash if you're going to travel, the answer should definitely be yes.
Nico, have you had an immersion experience?
I unfortunately have not, due to the specificity with the track of the education licensure. So I've not been able to do that, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, I've still been able to do the things I want to do. So.
Absolutely. And I think you're a perfect example of why liberal arts, as it pertains to doing multiple areas of study and being able to not have to sacrifice interests that you have in your 4 years, then making yourself not only more marketable as an employee when you go into the professional workforce, but just generally you have a better global view. Would you say that that's true? You have a lot of options.
Yeah, I definitely think the way, especially what immersion courses offer, is just like you mentioned, that global view, especially with the studies we have as well, with the languages that we have that we represent. But I definitely think that you're prepared here to essentially become like a Swiss Army knife for the world moving forward.
That's a great analogy. Thank you.
I think one of the big things that you're going to see throughout your college search that Wabash certainly utilizes, but that I think you have to be skeptical about, are certainly rankings and data and information that just gets thrown at you. These rankings are directly from the Princeton Review, which utilizes student input in their rankings. So we have the #1 alumni network in the country. No surprise, that also links us to being #1 for internship opportunities. Even within the course of this crazy pandemic that has us doing things much differently than we would like to be doing them, 88% of our students actually had internships just this last summer. We sent out a call out to our alums who responded in force after many other internships had been closed down for students. Like I mentioned, we have really accessible professors, so much so that most of them don't even post office hours, because if they're on campus, they're ready to talk to you. And the other rankings, I think, speak for themselves. Nico, I think you've developed some good relationships with a few of your professors. Maybe you could talk about that accessibility piece, or those professors get high marks, and what that looks like.
The accessibility piece for me specifically has become something that's extremely beneficial. I know I work really closely with Dr. Pittard and Dr. Seltzer Kelly from the education department in terms of the licensure process. But having them as resources has been incredibly helpful. But they're also people that I can contact at almost any hour of the day, which has definitely been helpful, especially in recent times. And, still trying to maintain those office hours like we would normally in person, but sometimes still either in person or through Zoom has definitely also been incredibly helpful. But in terms of accessibility, I would say that most professors that I have heard of on other campuses aren't as open or as accessible as that, as I said, here at Wabash. So.
Yeah, thanks, Nico. I actually was talking with a few students the other day, and one of the unique things that I hadn't heard before is we actually have a number of students that will text their professors questions or to meet up for coffee or things like that. And I think that just goes to show the willingness of our faculty to connect with our students on a really deep and meaningful basis. I know I certainly didn't text any of my professors or teachers in high school, and certainly wouldn't have expected to do that until I got to Wabash.
So Matt mentioned kind of these 4 pillars at Wabash. So I want to talk to you about why Wabash students earn more, and what that means and what you can look forward to if you decide that Wabash is a good fit and post Wabash. So one of the things that I know when I talk to students, a lot of students are wondering, what are your career placement rates? How are you going to help me after Wabash? And that being one of the top things that they want to discuss during a college visit or a conversation. And so I really like to brag about Wabash and the great job that they do preparing our students for success after Wabash. Our 2019 class on graduation day, so as they were walking across the stage, 87% of the students had already secured that first destination after Wabash. So that could have been graduate school, it could have been officer candidate school for the military, or most likely a job. And so we're really proud of that number, considering oftentimes it takes a significant amount of time at other institutions for a student to find a position and be at that placement rate. This year, currently, the last update I had around the end of September, we were at 91% for the class of 2020, which again, Matt mentioned those internship percentages, is really incredible considering the job losses due to the pandemic and opportunities for students just coming out of college. So to say that, prior to 6 months out, we're already at 91% is truly an impressive number. And that really reverts back again to that alumni network and that #7 career services, which are both national rankings. I want to point out that earn more piece. So when we say that graduate students are among the highest earning in the country, I want to put that into perspective for you. So a median mid-career salary for a Wabash graduate is $139,100. And that ranks us #3 in the Midwest, just barely behind a couple of other institutions, which again is so notable to me when you consider the academic institutions that are available to students in the Midwest. It's truly an incredible place for a school of 900 students to come out and go on with that earning potential. For those of you who are joining us and are thinking about or considering medical or law school, no questions about it, Wabash should definitely be on your list. We have an 88% law school acceptance rate and well into the 90s for medical school at 94%. And so students are coming to Wabash for that preparation for that professional school. And it is so often when I talk to alumni or our students who are currently in medical or law school, that they feel so much more prepared for the work that they're doing in law or medical school than their peers who are graduating from other undergraduate institutions. And so strongly consider Wabash for that. You're going to get a lot of incredible preparation, whether it be your opportunity to argue a Supreme Court case during moot court in front of judges and lawyers, or you are getting experience in the Global Health Initiative program with the local health department or traveling globally to Peru, but tons of opportunities there. And something else I think is really important, not just how much you're gonna make, but also how happy are you when you leave Wabash. And one thing we do know is our graduates give back at an astounding rate. And Forbes also ranked our alumni as #9 in the nation for happiest and most successful alumni. So when you're thinking about these internships and fellowships, maybe you have your sights set on something really extraordinary, even now in high school, about places that you envision yourself gaining an experience or finding employment when you leave college. And so I want to highlight a few of the places that our students have had an opportunity to intern, gain fellowships, go on to graduate school, or then become employees of those places as well. So just take a quick look here at some of those places, some that are going to be recognizable to you. Lilly, Google. I know I had a student at Amazon this last summer. Graduate schools like the Mendoza College of Business. So a lot of really remarkable and recognizable places that you're going to gain experiences that then, give you real world experiences to talk about when you go into that first interview or go on to your MBA program or whatever goals or aspirations you have set. You are going to have 100% of the staff and students behind you throughout the process and making sure that you achieve that. I do want to ask Nico a little bit about his internship experiences and his plans for next year. Nico?
So with the intern work for me, I actually ended up working a summer job through the school. I worked with the Boys and Girls Club here that was local in Montgomery County, and it was kind of an experiment for me, one to see working with different age groups, working forward with the education licensure plan to see where I wanted to teach, whether I wanted to teach elementary, middle, or high school. So that definitely helped me out as a summer experience. But then also just the guys that are around me. I know someone that's been offered a job by Lilly. We're not even out of the fall semester. I know a couple of guys that have been offered jobs like financial economic work. But just kind of seeing how career services set guys up through internships and then eventually through employment post Wabash is definitely something that's remarkable to witness.
Ian, can you talk a little bit about your plans for after you graduate?
Yep. So currently working with Dr. Fittard, one of my big considerations right now is the Memphis Teachers Residency Program, which I discovered through Wabash, which will place me in Memphis for a 4-year program, 1 year doing a master's in history for education, and then 3 years working with partnered communities in Memphis with the residency, teaching and providing educators for areas in need.
Awesome. Thanks, Nico.
So again, another pillar at Wabash of our mission statement that you're going to see and hear time and time again as you interact is leading more. And I think Wabash really exemplifies leadership across every possible endeavor you can think of. It's incredible to see the leadership qualities that our young men not only bring to campus, but also develop and really exemplify as they continue through at Wabash College. Leadership is certainly going to be seen in a lot of different areas. So there are a lot of different ways to lead. And so maybe you were like me and you weren't a really vocal person coming out of high school. And so you led by example. Maybe you weren't the captain of your football team, but you're the treasurer for student council. I think there are a lot of different opportunities to really take those things and create some synergy. And the thing that's great about Wabash and our leaders is the fact that they find leadership positions for every single student. And that starts immediately from the time you step in the door at Wabash. Every single opportunity that Wabash offers is completely open to freshmen as you step foot on campus. And I think the reality of that is that you get the opportunity more quickly to get engaged. So just a few of the leadership opportunities that you can have at Wabash amongst the more than 60 different clubs and organizations. We really highlighted just a few. Wabash has a really unique way of doing housing in the fact that right now we're about 55% fraternity life, 45% dorm life. And what's amazing about that is with our 4-year residency requirement, so all students will live 4 years at Wabash, we actually have freshmen move directly into our fraternities starting the first day that they're on campus. So that rush process actually takes place through the spring and summer of your senior year of high school. And so many guys are taking on leadership positions within those fraternities, also as a part of the Independent Men's Association, which really is the leadership arm of the dorm life. Clubs and organizations such as the Sphinx Club, MXI, student government. We actually are ranked number 10 as having the most active student government in the country. And what's really cool is the college actually gives about $300,000 to our student senate each year. And that budget is managed completely by our students to use all of these different, avenues to find their leadership potential. Nico, maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the different areas that you've been involved, the different opportunities for leadership, and maybe some of the growth that you've seen as a result of those activities?
So for me and my time here at Wabash, I've been a member of our Student Athlete Advisory Committee working with legislation between schools in our conference and the NCAA for Division III specifically. I've been an officer of a fraternity for 3 years in terms of risk management, like health and safety stuff in that aspect. I've been sent on 2 different trips. One was for an Apple conference in regards to things like mental health and drug abuse for student athletes in all 3 divisions of collegiate sports. And I've also been sent to Florida again for another conference through the NCAA for, it was leadership development between all 3 divisions. So working with students from Division I, II, and III, and also with like faculty members, coaches, things like that. So I've had a lot of opportunities, and I definitely would say that who I am now compared to who I am as a freshman is completely different. And I would say the same for who I was as a freshman here and as a senior in high school.
Yeah, thanks, Nico. I appreciate that, and I think that growth is really cool for members of our community to see. And I think the other piece about Wabash and leadership at Wabash is really the leadership in the sense of service. And I think what we typically find is that, yeah, it's important for guys to find leadership positions because they know that that will help them in their application processes. But our young men approach these leadership positions as opportunities to make the college a better place. So whether that's, just this fall, we've had a lot of students on campus. Actually, 100% of our classes are being taught in person, which is amazing in the middle of this pandemic. But we had a student who started his own service club. They meet pretty regularly on Saturdays now to go out into the Crawfordsville community. And while it started kind of as a way just to find some things to do on the weekends that are safe and that are going to be helpful to the community, it's grown to be something that these guys look forward to every week. And it's that you'll see 20, 30 or more students going out and serving the community every single Saturday morning. In addition to that, the leadership that's bringing about quality conversations, I think, is also important. I think that currently we have a lot of different things that people are thinking about, from the global scale to the national scale to maybe your local community and certainly your own personal feelings. And I think that having young men that are willing to step out and lead conversations that are meaningful to bring people in, whether that's about diversity, inclusion, whether that's about politics, whether it's about faith, whether it's about any number of other areas. Wabash men are constantly stepping up and saying, I will take ownership over that. I'll take some authority and have meaningful conversations with my brothers about these types of scenarios. And Nico, maybe you can talk a little bit about that from the student side of just kind of that brotherhood and that feel that happens on campus.
Matt, kind of like you mentioned, one thing that's really nice is that the people here are willing to have those uncomfortable conversations and the ones that are challenging. I know I've had a handful of conversations in the 4 years that I've been here that I probably wouldn't have had anywhere else, because I don't think people would have developed a mindset to be accepting of things like controversial topics, but also differing opinions. And guys here, they use conversations of that sort not as to set people apart, but to understand people and to grow together. And I think that's one of the big key elements about the brotherhood, but also just the general resource that it serves as. I've met people here in my 4 years that I'll probably know for the rest of my life and will probably end up at my wedding someday. But just the general relationships and the resources you have between students here, not just including faculty, but as a campus as a whole, are something that I will cherish while I'm here and when I'm gone.
Yeah, thanks, Nico. That's great.
So we know that Wabash men work hard in the classroom, in their communities. They're doing all these great things, but we also want to talk about how they have fun. And at Wabash, you play more. And so we want to talk about some of the ways that our students get involved on campus and means of having fun and just doing other things outside of the classroom. So we are NCAA Division III athletics. So if you're considering a varsity sport, that's our division. We also have club and intramural sports, which is really big on campus. But again, 12 varsity sports, and we are certainly no stranger to championships. We have really great athletic programs. So I always tell students, don't be surprised when every other guy on your team, when you come to Wabash, was also all state, all conference, high achieving athletically. But the great part is that they're also high achieving academically. So it goes back to a lot of things we've talked about along the way here about surrounding yourself with people that are going to challenge you, and making it fun though in this case. You want to leave college and enter adulthood as the best version of yourself. And so you are going to find that if you're an athlete at Wabash, you're going to find yourself surrounded by great guys athletically and academically. But at Wabash, about 50% of our students are student varsity athletes, but the other 50% are not. But what I will guarantee is that they're going to be at every football game. They're going to be in the stands at a basketball game, cheering on the Little Giants, cheering on their brothers in competition. So it goes back again to a lot of the stuff we're talking about the camaraderie of campus and the brotherhood and that support they generally share for one another in all aspects. And you're going to see that on the flip side at a theater performance or an art show. So that's just a little bit about the athletic programs, but again, just want to really highlight the culture of our campus. Nico, before I move on, you are a student athlete. Do you want to talk a little bit about that experience and managing your classes and, just kind of overall the competition?
As a student athlete, it can definitely seem like a lot, since as a D3 institution, we place most of our emphasis on the academic portion of it. Student athlete is really what we are here. You focus on your academics before athletics. Balancing the workload is definitely something, coming in as a freshman, it seems a little bit challenging just because it's a lot more than what you may be used to. And you also have a lot more free time. But I think that the competitive attitude around sports and around the classroom here, in a way, passively creates ways to handle both workloads and also manage them successfully, which is one thing I credit, a lot of my success to, is just how the environment of, both aspects of college here definitely play a role together.
Awesome. So what else do students do? If you're not into sports or, like this year, we don't have a football season, in the fall. So what are our students doing to stay entertained and have fun? Matt had previously mentioned that we have 10 national fraternities on campus. So if that's something that you want to explore, I strongly encourage you to consider a fraternity or residence life, either one, but to at least explore all of your options. I can't tell you how many times I meet with a student as a senior in high school and they say, no, a fraternity is not for me, simply because of what they know at maybe a large state institution or what they saw in a movie. They just have determined that that's not the right fit. But what I can tell you about the fraternities at Wabash, having 10 fraternities, they all have very different personalities. And so you may find that you do find your fit in a fraternity at Wabash, but at least consider it and explore it. You can always decide later on if you want to join a fraternity and move directly into a residence hall to begin with. So we do have 10 other independent living units on campus of some sort. So a lot of great options for you to choose from when you're thinking about where you're going to sleep on campus and the people that you're going to be surrounded by. As we've talked about too, in the leadership portion, we have over 70 clubs and organizations. If you take that and you compare it to a school that's much larger than us, you're going to find that that's a pretty solid number of ways to get involved on campus and find something that you like to do or something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's the barbecue club, or maybe it's the cooking club. Maybe it's, fishing, whatever it is that you like. I can almost guarantee that you're going to find it at Wabash. And if you don't, you can always start a petition to begin a club and be the founding father of said club, and take that to student senate and ask for approval of that and get some activities planned. So a lot to do there. We are ranked number 6 for an active Greek life on campus, and number 6 for a lot of people play intramural sports. So that's a lot of fun that our students have. But aside from all that, we also have some of the best traditions, very long standing, And with that, I do want to ask Nico. Nico, what's your favorite tradition, and what are some clubs you might have tried out during your 4 years?
My favorite tradition is probably got to be the staple of chapel sing during our homecoming week. 11:15 Thursday of homecoming week, you got 10 houses on the mall. You got 45 minutes of singing a 4-minute fight song, just screaming at the top of your lungs. And it's just another one of those like healthy competition things, but it's also just seeing like kind of how Wabash as a community gathers for an event like that. You wouldn't think that any campus would show up to guys just singing a song for 45 minutes. But it's definitely really big, especially in terms of energy leading into that homecoming game for that Saturday, which is really cool to witness. In terms of clubs, I know one I got involved with a little bit was when we hosted the Brewing Club here at the InACAC house for a little bit. And so it was just a group of guys that got together, started a club, and brewed their own beers for a semester. I believe we still have it. I'm just not sure where it's hosted.
Do you like chapel sing because your house won the last 2 years?
That may play a role in it, but possibly.
Yeah, that's a really fun tradition. But if you have a chance to visit Wabash and take a tour of campus, or even if you're able to do it virtually, hearing from our students about all of the different traditions around campus really contributes to the unique culture at Wabash. We also host concerts, and we get involved in the community and have social events. I know right now, mostly every Friday, there are different events going on in the mall, guys playing bags and spike ball, and they get food trucks and just different ways to keep students entertained. That's been going on a couple of Fridays. This Saturday, they're hosting a golf outing. So a lot of things that are still going on safely, and students getting creative of how to keep the campus together. So our guys also have fun.
So Nico, one of the things I was thinking about, so you are a fraternity guy, so you chose one out of the 10. How did you kind of get to your decision on where you were going to live?
The biggest thing for me is how Wabash does fraternities, which is so different because, like you mentioned, when you do that open rush process, you move in as a freshman, and it's not like, it's very different than most experiences that I've heard about, but just being able to witness the culture and the life of all 10 houses personally, and seeing how like the guys in the house got together and functioned, it was definitely a big factor for me, just being able to, like I said, personally experience those houses without being a member, but seeing like how those guys formed their own little family within the brotherhood at Wabash. That was a big factor for me.
No, I think that's great. And I think it's one of those things that guys see a lot, because there is a lot of ability to move around. It's really fluid. Our living situation is really fluid through those first couple weeks freshman year. So it's great to know that you're not going to make a bad choice on classes. You're not going to make a bad choice on where you live, because you have the opportunity and the flexibility at a small place like Wabash to have that kind of ability to move around and to find the right place for you. So we would be remiss, obviously, if we didn't at least talk a little bit about the process of applying to Wabash and what some of our financial aid may look like. So I'm not going to read everything on the page. You guys can see it, but our application is obviously open. Hopefully you guys are working through your applications. You can apply either via the Common App or directly through Wabash's website. Of course, there's no better way to apply. The most important thing is to send us the strongest possible application that you can this year. So, our average incoming student is going to have roughly a 3.6, 3.7, maybe a 24, 25 on the ACT. And really, that's kind of just the middle of the road. So we have students that are both above and below that. One of our big changes this year as a result of the pandemic is that we are a test optional institution. So when you apply to Wabash, you will select that you're either going to send us a test score or you're not going to send us a test score. That decision is completely up to you. I think the biggest thing is, again, just making sure that you send us the strongest possible application. We'll do a holistic review of that entire application. So your application, your test scores, if you choose to submit them, a report from your high school counselor, including their recommendation. If you want to send additional recommendation letters, you can. You can send up to 3 of those, as well as an essay, which as of right now is optional. But again, if you're writing those essays for other places, I think it's really important that you send us the strongest piece possible to be admitted to Wabash. The second piece kind of the puzzle, once a student has been admitted to the college, then you actually go through our financial aid scholarship review. So all of our students, regardless of how they apply, will be considered for our merit-based scholarships. This year, our scholarships range anywhere from $17,000 to $32,000 per year, based on where you're at, both in the application, or you can utilize our merit scholarship grid if you send in your test scores along with your transcript this year. So lots of opportunities, not only for merit-based scholarships, but the list continues. So we have a full ride scholarship called the Wabash Lilly Award. We award 3 of those each year. It does require a separate application, as you can imagine. It is highly competitive, but it's certainly something that students are going to want to do. We have other need-based dollars that we utilize the FAFSA to submit as well. So if you have any questions about need-based dollars, we're going to take, our financial aid office is going to take a look at all the information we have from you, incorporate not only need-based dollars, but also any merit-based money. And typically around February time, we're going to send out our financial aid notifications. And those notifications are really going to give you the baseline number of what it's going to cost you to come to Wabash. And what we find is, 99% of our students are actually receiving some sort of aid, and oftentimes are seeing that the cost at Wabash, because we don't have a lot of other fees, really is a better, not only all around value, but better cost overall. So as you think about the scholarships and merits and application process, just think about, the different opportunities that you'll have. At Wabash, you're going to get the opportunity to travel for free. You're not going to have to pay for parking. You're not going to have to pay for tickets to home games and to theater productions and to special speakers. All of that stuff is going to be incorporated in there. So continue to stay in contact with our office, with our financial aid office, with your individual territory manager. We're happy to connect you with students, great guys like Nico, who will take time out of their busy homework schedule to sit down with us and talk about Wabash. But with that, I think that kind of finishes up our part of the day. We do want to highlight our save the date for December 10th through the 12th. So we were talking about scholarships a minute ago. This is our big scholarship competition weekend. So we're actually doing this all virtually this year. So a brand new way of doing it. You only need to sign up for 1 day, but if you apply by December 1st and have registered for this program via our website, you will automatically earn a $1,000 scholarship, which will be stacked on top of your merit-based scholarship if you're admitted to the college. Additionally, throughout the course of this weekend, you're going to take a class with a Wabash professor virtually. You're going to write an essay, and you're going to compete for a full tuition award. This past couple of years, we've managed to give out 1 or 2 full tuition awards at this weekend. But at the same time, you're going to be able to interact with students, get a feel for what a Wabash class is really like. You're going to get $1,000 for completing the program, and potentially earning yourself a full tuition scholarship. So definitely get that on your radar, and you can actually go to our website right now and register for that program. And I think, just to kind of close out the program, again, we've talked a lot about being a little bit skeptical of how colleges utilize the various statistics and or rankings and things like that. But the reality is Wabash is one of the only colleges in the country that you're going to find on all of these lists. And I think that at the end of the day, if Wabash isn't on your list, then I think you may be missing the boat. So definitely keep Wabash on your list. And I think at this point, I want to open it up. We've got a few minutes for questions. So you can type a question into the Q&A section, and we'll be happy to answer those. But Nico, Kate, if you guys have anything else that you'd like to add, please do so.
I always have stuff to add. I love Wabash. I think it's a wonderful place. I could probably talk for 2 hours if InACAC would allow me to talk about Wabash. But, just to kind of echo what Matt just said, we want to leave you with this because Wabash truly is one of a kind. To be the only college in the nation that makes all these lists is pretty remarkable. So we invite you to campus. We are offering on-campus visits. Come meet our students from a distance, take a tour, and just get to explore Wabash a little bit more.
The one thing I would add is that I would definitely say in the last 4 years that I've been here, I don't think I would have traded it for anything. Memories, relationships, just the general growth as an individual. I definitely think that the choice that I made was worth it much more than anything I think I've decided on in the last 4 years.
And Nico, maybe you give them a best piece of advice. It wasn't real long ago, 4 years ago, that you were kind of sitting in their shoes. What's your best piece of advice kind of going through the college search?
The big thing for me with the college search was I knew I wanted a small classroom, but find what fits the environment you need to learn, but also to grow. And for me, that meant picking a place that stood out, but also provided challenges that most places I don't think would. I know I always say that, choosing to go to a college at the age of 18 that's an all-male school is a mature decision to make because there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. But also being at the age of 18 and making that choice, people are going to give you a lot of stuff because there's, this, that, and the other about it. But I definitely think that to make that choice at the age of 18 is a long-term investment and not a short-term investment. And I think that that's where that growth piece starts early on.
Looks like we've got just a couple more minutes to go. So if you do have any questions, please submit those to us so we can get them answered for you.
And I know a lot of these college presentations end up kind of feeling like you're drinking from a fire hose of information. The reality is, as this information settles, please reach out to members of our staff, whether that's directly to myself or to Caitlin. We're happy to answer your questions and directly to the people that you need to talk to, whether that's faculty members or club leaders, whether that's students like Nico or other students that are doing the things that you hope to be doing in 1 or 2 or 3 years from now. Utilize us a lot and stay in contact with us. Be mindful of your emails. I know you're getting a lot of them right now, but we do send a lot of really important information in those emails. So be sure that you're looking at those as well. But yeah, definitely take some time. Think of some questions. We may have answered everything you had on your list for tonight. But I think if you take a list of questions with you to every school that you're going to be looking at, and just make sure that you ask that list of questions every single place you go, you'll start to get a better sense of, what a common denominator may be. And you'll start to see the differences in schools because you'll have so many options. So definitely stay in touch with us, utilize your guidance counselors, visit, apply, do all the different things that you need to do. But yeah, hopefully, maybe no questions. I'm not seeing anything.
All right, well, we'll conclude our presentation then. Thank you so much for joining us, as Matt said, and we hope to see you soon.
All right, thank you for joining us, and thanks to the staff of Wabash College for an outstanding presentation tonight. Participants, when you close your window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Also, remember, this is just one of many sessions that's being hosted, so be sure to sign up for the additional sessions at inacac.org. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording at that same website. Thank you and have a great evening.